Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the Scoop World Order. Huge show tonight. Got some new breaking news on the Michigan scandal. Keeps coming, folks. So keep it tuned in here because we got some juicy stuff that Nevadabuck's going to detail that he found out today. We're also going to take your questions, talk a little bit about the team. The roster is set. This is going to be really interesting next month or so. Excited about it. This is a different team, but we got a lot of star power, a lot of really exciting new faces we might talk about a little bit too as well. So as always, if you guys enjoy our content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, I appreciate you guys being on here each and every night. Huge show again tonight. Huge number of people in here already. So get that chat buzzing and get the super chats fired up. Again, if you guys want to do something huge for us, give us a follow on Apple Podcasts. It's super easy to do. Really easy way to help the show out, help us continue to grow. And also follow us on all of our other streaming platforms and podcast platforms. But right now we're streaming exclusively on YouTube, which has been magnificent. So we appreciate the relationship we have with YouTube. So we appreciate you guys being on here each and every night. So that being said, got to bring in the man of the hour, Mr. Nevadabuck. Nevada, you have some more Michigan stuff you've been digging. Actually, this is one I think actually came to you, which was great, as opposed to you having to go dig around. Talk a little bit about what is the latest in the Michigan saga, and is the hammer incoming?
Well, I'm going to bury the lead. So the hammer is absolutely incoming for Michigan. But no, you're right. This is one of those kind of unsolicited reach outs from my best source on all things NCAA. And as you guys are aware, if you've listened to the show, we've been kind of leading the pace or setting the pace, leading the pack, whatever you want to call it, on this whole Michigan scandal. We've told you what's going to happen. We told you when it's going to happen. We told you how it's going to happen. Well, this is interesting because this is the primary source that I have on 99% of that stuff when I talk about the NCAA, and contacted me today and said, ironically, that Michigan has just retained their third counsel now. And the counsel that they have two national firms, and this is a local firm with a managing partner that's a former NCAA official. These are guys that are known as kind of the mediated resolution guys, but he's like, it's too late. It's too late for the mediated resolution. But in his view, this was kind of his words, not mine. But his words were this was kind of a Hail Mary mediated resolution attempt by Michigan because this thing's going really badly for them. This is I know they don't like the way that they're the way that this is trending from the two law firms that they currently have working on this, and the only conclusion that I can draw from the information that I've got is that they're trying to go the mediated resolution route, despite the fact that this is literally in the bottom of the ninth inning right now because they've set a date. It's going to the committee on infraction. I mean, it's there's going to be a hearing and there's going to be some sort of a resolution on this within the next 120 days, to the end of this, but maybe 150, maybe 95, whatever it's going to be. But we're literally hurtling towards the end. So I thought it was really interesting that they brought in this other law firm, the law firm that in this guy's person should have been the firm that they hired in the first place. So very interesting stuff going on. I know that there were some changes to the NCAA dashboard regarding the Michigan case. The information that we have obviously is that it's one of the affiliated parties. Another affiliated party has reached some sort of a negotiated settlement with the NCAA, not Michigan. But this move by Michigan would seem to indicate that that's something that they're trying to get to. And again, if you can just kind of connect the dots, kind of go, well, why would they try to get to immediate resolution if they didn't think they did anything wrong, if they were happy with the way things were going, if they were ready to bet, and you have Yoko Ono lead us to the promised land of legal victory. Why are they doing this? And the only thing that I can come up with is that they're clearly not happy with the direction that this thing's going, and they're trying desperately for a course correction. My information is that it's too late. That it's just that time. There was a time for that. That time has come and gone. But they have retained a third counsel, and the NCAA is aware that this counsel is now working on behalf of the University of Michigan. So something to just note and keep keep in the back of your mind as this thing kind of goes, because if anything was going to happen, it would have to happen quick, because it's going it's going towards the final resolution, and this would have to come together like really quick, like in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned.
I mean, as someone who's personally slaughtered people that have gone against me in legal stuff, this is something that if you're changing your counsel this late in the game, this isn't not a good sign. I think that you're not liking what your attorneys are telling you. I think you're not liking the direction they think it's headed. Again, you see major court cases, throughout the country that get media coverage, and you'll hear about counsel quitting. Famously in the last 2 days, like the guy that was defending Diddy, who's up against everything in the world right now with all the demonic stuff he's been doing. Like his attorney literally quit, and this is an attorney that I think he's defended terrorists and like scum of the earth human beings. And he said that this Diddy stuff is just a line too far. So I think that when there's a changing of the guard in the middle of a trial, especially when it's this deep, or not a trial, a case, whatever you want to call it, one of the parties isn't liking what they're hearing. So I think that Michigan, obviously, attorneys, like, they like to win, obviously, but they like to bill tons of hours and make tons of money. But to me, I think this looks pretty gloomy for Michigan. Like, when you're changing your counsel, and this has been going on for a year and a half now. I mean, since the signing stuff broke, and it's like you're now switching your counsel again, which is peculiar, just because you're so deep into it, man. And when you got to restart it, and I'm sure, like, when it's a really public case like this, there's a lot of stuff that has been followed along by this firm, especially if they're tied to Michigan or local or whatever. So they kind of get the gist of the case, but it's still a lot of legwork to kind of restart it, and it's really expensive. I mean, when you gotta bring in a whole new set of eyeballs and restart that retainer, and again, I know Michigan has billions of dollars laying around, so it's not it's just a drop in the bucket, but it isn't a great look, in my opinion. And I think it's something that they're trying to figure out what they're gonna do. Like, if they're just gonna drive the bus right off the cliff, which looks like that's the direction they're gonna go, or if they're gonna beg for mercy. I don't think this is not going to end well for Michigan. We know that. If this thing goes to court, this thing will be a disaster for them, because again, I would do everything in my power to settle this thing and not get to the point where you get to court and there's discovery and people like us and every other journalist, Justin Spiro, the great investigative journalist who was on the show last week, get to see all of the inner workings, all of the discovery. So once you get into court, man, there's perjury, there's discovery, there's evidence that's going to come out, and it's going to be stuff that's been, to this point, behind closed doors. Obviously, we had a little glimpse of it with the Connor Stalions documentary that was, it was whatever. But I mean, they did have, interviews with Connor, getting interviewed by the NCAA, and, in the NCAA, like, there's no perjury with the NCAA. Now, you can lie to them. It's not a smart thing to do, but there's not a legal issue, whereas if you perjure yourself in court, like, I mean, you're going to go to jail a long time. So it's going to be real interesting to see how this shakes down going forward. Nevada, what does it tell you that they're switching their counsel kind of this late in the game when this is the 8th inning? I mean, maybe the bottom of the 8th inning. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, again, it wasn't clear to me if it was a total switch or if this was in addition to. So I don't have that. But what was so interesting about this was this firm was literally the firm that my NCAA guy identified from day one, said this is the firm that Michigan should hire if they want to kind of mitigate the damage, get out. This is the firm that they should go with, and that always kind of stuck with me in the back of my head. That now all of a sudden, boom! Sure enough, the exact firm that he had mentioned back then gets retained. Here in late February of 2025. I just think it's really, they're clearly not happy with the direction that things are going right now, and I think it's been kind of the story of the case. I think that they felt that, like, they could stonewall this, that they could kind of run out the clock, that people would lose interest in it, that the NCAA would lose steam, whatever their thinking was. And I think from the administration just got run over by the crazies and the football program, and got put into an untenable situation. So, because now all the football guys are gone. Now all that's left is now administration's got to deal with it, and they're like, oh my God, we have got the world's worst cards right now. We've got terrible cards. We've got to play these, and I don't. They're not sure really. Hey, they're not really sure how to do it right now. My dogs are not happy about either one about Michigan doing that either. But no, they. I just, I, I just think it was so funny that they would do that. They would bring in the mediated resolution guys when the time for. I mean, they're literally, like I said, they're literally 90 days away from the hearing, and this is not the time when the immediate resolution stuff should have been done 6 months ago. It should have been done back in August, back in September, before the first NOA even dropped. But I don't believe that the Michigan administration just had the gumption to do it at that point in time. And I think now they realize what they're up against, how bad the situation is. Um, for all the Michigan people out there going, oh, this is going to be nothing. That's fine. We'll see. One of us is going to be right and one of us is going to be wrong. That is, and I like my ground on this one. We'll see in 90 or 120 days or whatever when this thing goes down. But you just got to ask yourself, if this was nothing, if they could settle this thing for nothing, why hasn't Michigan done that yet? Why hasn't Michigan put this thing to bed? Why hasn't Michigan, erased all doubt about the future, about the past, about their legacy? Why haven't they done that? And there's really only you're left with one inescapable answer. It's because what the NCAA is demanding from them is so draconian and so untenable to them that they just can't stomach to accept it. It's going to have to be inflicted upon them so that they can go back to their fan base and just say, hey, this happened to us, but we didn't take it, guys. They just stuck it to us, and the mean old NCAA, and we're really sad pandas. But that's where we're at. So this is major news on Michigan development today, and as a Michigan fan, should be terrifying to you to see the predicament that they've got themselves in.
Yeah, I think that they've fought this war, and I mean it's a war where they're just so far behind that it's amazing. And the fact that they like Justice Spear said, they want to try to fight it out potentially and go to court, and I mean that's great. I mean they're already tarnished forever after this with the level of this cheating and how deep it was, but you get into court, man, and we get to find out every little thing. I mean it'll be incredible. Like I mean I'm rooting for this thing to go to court so that they can so that the NCAA discovery can come out, and you gotta produce this stuff. You put these guys on the stand and they can't perjure. Like that'll be must see TV. Now I don't think it'll get there. I think they're gonna figure something out. But I don't know, man. I'm loving the direction of this. Real quick, we do have a super chat that is not on my board because it was a pre-show super chat, but I'm gonna read this, and I don't know if I can throw this up on the board or not. But let me see if I can get it in here. Oh my God. Did you get Spiro's text just now?
Yeah. No, he's gonna post on that pretty soon, so that'll be interesting.
So we're not gonna talk about that. We'll wait for Spiro.
We're not gonna talk about it, but more, just more good stuff for Michigan.
More bad stuff is coming from Michigan because Spiro's the GOAT. So Spiro, if you're in the chat, I appreciate you, my dude. Jared A. Brandon, appreciate you, brother. Thanks for the 50. You know what? Let me see if I can get a little creative here. He says, I love when Fatty McGee's pick, which is the athletic director, Ward Manuel, who I always love finding a fat Ward Manuel photo, is posted for the show. Nevadabuck, would you rather A, have all cheater wins all 3 seasons vacated, or B, have the cheaters keep all the past wins but get 3 years of post bowl bans? Hopefully both. Love you, Scoop family. Appreciate you, Jared. Nevada, what are you picking? 3 years of seasons vacated, or have them keep the past wins and get 3 years of bowl bans? What are your thoughts?
I mean, that's tough. I mean, that's tough because I really would like that national championship vacated. I think that would just be Fantastic. I mean, I know the right answer. The right answer is 3 years going forward because we can't change the past. Blah blah. I know that's the right answer. So I'm going to already defer and just say the right answer is the 3 years going forward postseason ban. Um, but I really want those wins vacated from 2021, 22, 23 because they cheated, and they used a tactic that was illegal. They knew it was illegal. They did it 50 times. They did it while they were on probation as a repeat offender, the NCAA, and they should be hit with the most draconian penalties possible. So I'm going to say my final answer is strip them in the national championship. That's probably the biggest priority for me. So that I'd go with A, strip them of everything for the past 3 years.
I think it has to be A. I mean, I think that it's embarrassing to lose a season. It's embarrassing for, that entire group. I mean, that group never did anything. Harbaugh and that entire class of kids, they never did anything in their careers until those last 3 years when they started cheating. So to vacate all that, it erases, what was a really strong run by them. I mean, Jim Harbaugh was out the door and ready to get fired and was trying to get an NFL job for, a couple years before, he got, whacked at Michigan. He had to take that pay cut his salary from $8 million to $4 million, which is crazy. I mean, when you look at Ryan Day makes $12 million, obviously Ryan won a national title, but I mean, Jim Harbaugh, they made him cut his salary in half. That's how bad it was. So to delete all of that, I think would be great. I think that's fair. I think that's very, it's a good thing to kind of give warning to other schools. Cause again, like I talk about us, like I was literally a coach on a team that got deleted, like the 2010 team, which had, that was Cam Hayward's senior year. That was Dane Sanzenbacher's, senior year. I mean, we had some great players on that team. Obviously Terrell was our quarterback, and Terrell was, in my opinion, I mean, he wasn't as good as Cam, but he was, probably the second best player in the country that year. I mean, Cam was out of this world good. But Terrell was really good. And, we just had, I don't know. It's hard to realize that all those really good, Bryant Browning was a captain on that team. Justin Bourne, that was his senior year. A lot of really good kids, Dexter Larimore, a lot of really good players. And they just didn't, that season's gone. Ross Homan, Brian Roll, they can see their faces because that was a really underrated team. That was a team that, we went up to Wisconsin and crapped the bed, but other than that, like we were undefeated, won every other game, and that team there's no recognition of that in the Ohio State program, in the Woody Hayes, and that's the team that won the Big Ten. So yeah, I don't know. Like I think vacating a past great team is pretty. I think it's a good punishment, because it takes away some really good stuff. I mean, like I said, that team will never have a reunion. They won the Sugar Bowl, and they beat an SEC team. I mean, that was after we'd lost the Florida game, the LSU game, and we had to go back to Louisiana and we had to play Arkansas, and it was a good Arkansas team with Petrino and Ryan Mallett, and we smashed them. Well, we smashed them. We like almost gave the game away, but we came out of that game on fire. I mean, we were in really good shape. And Terrell played hurt, and he was a monster that game. So, yeah, I like the vacation of wins. I think that's something that's really, really important. Well, Nevada, we had a lot of good feedback on the Workout Warrior Buzz. I've watched a lot of film today. I've been watching Max Clare. I've been watching Philip Daniels. Been watching Ethan Onyanwa. What do you think this new crop of transfers is going to add to the mix? I think that they might get some interviews done the next year. I hope at some point we actually trot these guys out and they get to talk. But I mean, Max Clare he's the best tight end in the country, and it's not even close. I watched him versus Penn State, and as you know, when you play Penn State, you're blocking Abdul Carter, and you're going against a really, really tough defense, the defense that gave us all that we could handle at Happy Valley. They played at Purdue, but I mean, he's blocking Abdul Carter. I mean, and Abdul Carter is going to be is the best player in the draft by a mile, in my opinion, first overall pick. And he also had 7 catches for 91 yards and a touchdown. So he was the best player on the field, not named Abdul Carter, in my opinion. But what are your thoughts about it? Again, about some of these transfers and what they can add to what they can bring to the table.
Well, I mean, clearly, having stabled or stabilized the tackle position with bringing in the two guys was obviously gigantic. And Max Clare, we haven't. I don't know we've ever had a tight end quite like Max Clare. We went on last show. It's been a long time since we've had a first team All American tight end, like 50 years, and he's just going to bring another dimension to an already dynamic offense. I mean, we've already shown a propensity to throw to the running backs. Obviously, we'll go to the wide receivers liberally, but the tight end's been a little bit of the forgotten man, but it won't be forgotten with Max. But to me, it brings up the bigger issue, which is the whole idea of the second portal window. And the second portal window has traditionally been less eventful, even though we've got Josh Simmons in it and some things. But I think that you've got to look at the macro factors hitting college football right now. And there's a big story coming out of BYU about how their collective basically just stopped paying players and stopped honoring the commitments that they'd made to the players there, and had done so after the first portal window closed. And I think what you're seeing is that's a common thing. There are a lot of deals that are being renegotiated. I don't want to use the word reneged, but some of them are being reneged. Their guys aren't getting what they thought they'd be getting. And I think a lot of kids are kind of waking up to that and kind of going, man, this second portal window, I need to go out and explore, because what things are not what I thought they were going to be. And it'll be very interesting to see how active Ohio State gets and how widespread this is, because I'm hearing from people in the agent community that this is a big deal, that this is not a small deal. This is not an isolated incident. This is not just a BYU issue. This is a college football in general issue. And if that's true, then the second portal window might be a little bit more entertaining and engaging than we would have thought. We knew that Ohio State would be looking. We knew that Ohio State really didn't have a chance to fully engage on the first one, given the college football playoff, and they were a little busy with other things. But if there's a move where people are throwing their hat in the ring because the NIL deals aren't what they thought they were going to be, then the second portal window could get really interesting. And I think that's the big story of the transfer portal thing for 2025.
I think that the second portal window is going to be monstrous. I mean that. And I know that people are, well, Kirk, we already got Max Clare and we already got, our two tackles and everything else. But the rates and the amount of money these kids are getting promised or getting tampered with, getting offered, I mean, it's crazy money. Like, I mean, so, I mean, if you're a really good backup on a really good team, I mean, you're going to be a very valuable commodity. And then it's kind of like one of those things where, well, do I go get paid, or do I stick it out and try to win a spot, or do I go guarantee myself that I'm going to start? Like, I mean, like we had two players go to Manhattan, Kansas. We had Gabe Powers, and who's from Marysville, and he's from Benny's Pizza, by the way. It's phenomenal if you guys are up in Marysville, because it's fire. George Fitzpatrick. We had two guys go to Kansas State. I mean, both got paid, from the agents I've talked to, great money. Zen Mikulski got paid great money to go to Indiana. And those guys, frankly, wouldn't have gotten anything, or they'd have barely, they'd have gotten, and I can't say anything because they would have gotten like a low six-figure deal, which again, whatever. But I mean, there's serious things. And then there's the other part where a lot of these, collectives are crapping out. I mean, they're not all rolling in the dough like Ohio State is. I mean, they're crapping out because all of a sudden you pay a bunch of money last year, team ain't no good, then who's going to want to donate to it? Like, look at Ohio State's basketball team. Like, I know, I mean, those guys are getting a minimum of $500,000 each. And so, and they're terrible. I mean, they shoot 20% from the field, so eventually, like, people are gonna say, well, why am I giving money to watch this and watch our center from Kentucky, who's a 7-figure guy, not even play, get 3 points? And so I'm not gonna go to negative town, but imagine if our football team performed like our basketball team. what would the collective look like? What would the fundraising look like? So that's the reality for a lot of these teams, is that they didn't have the year that they wanted last year, and they might have been promising a certain amount of money. And um, I think some of these teams are going to get capped out really quick. I think that some of them kind of spent and went for broke, and they were hoping that everything would get legislated and there'd be a salary cap or however you're going to do it. Um, but I think this next window is going to be very interesting, because I think that there's going to be some guys that there's always some consternation when maybe there's a new offensive coordinator, a new offensive line coach, a new defensive line coach, D coordinator, position coach, whatever, new head coach. Okay, I'll give him a shot. I'll stick around for a couple months through spring ball, and if it's not a great fit, then let's go take a look. And again, the thing is like with Ohio State, like we're always going to be on the hunt to make our roster that extra 5% better than it was coming out of spring. Like again, like it's funny because, you know, sometimes it's not all that glitters is, you know, isn't gold, because like you joked about Josh Simmons and we got him in this, and again, that was one where, you know, we got him in the second portal after spring ball. We'd had Josh Schreier playing left tackle that spring, and he looked terrible. And I think Josh Schreier is a really, really tough kid, really, really good player here at Ohio State, did a really nice job for us, but he was a fish out of water at left tackle because his footwork. And again, he'd be the first guy to admit it. Like playing left and right side when you're a tackle, if you're used to one side over the other, it's literally night and day. Like I always joke, it's like if you go out to your YMCA and you go to shoot basketballs and you're a righty, and also you have to shoot lefty for the whole game if you're, you know, playing pickup basketball. If you guys are golfers and you are right-handed, and then all of a sudden I say, well, hey, we're going to golf today, but you have to use a left-handed club or a left-handed set of clubs. Like it's not easy to do. And you could be a scratch golfer, but if all of a sudden you got to, you know, switch to your offhand and use clubs you've never used before, you're not going to look anywhere near as good. And that's what playing offensive tackles like. So they go out and get Josh, and I mean, Josh is, I mean, one of the great development stories in the history of Ohio State football, from, you know, the raw material that he was to the player that he is now, where again, ESPN's mock draft that came out today, the pre-combine mock draft, he's the 10th overall pick to the 49ers. So as much as, and again, I've taken so many victory laps that I have blisters that are the size of softballs on my feet, because I've taken so many victory laps on the people that were complaining and crying about offensive tackle recruiting and how are we ever going to field a team in 2025 who's going to play tackle. Well, hell, we got the number one tackle in the NFL draft again. We had Paris and Dewan a couple years ago. We had Nick Petit and Thayer a couple years ago. And now we got Josh Simmons, who's the best tackle in the draft by far. If he was completely healthy, which I think he's really close to that now, then he might be a top 5 pick. But he is he's special. But I'm gonna kind of you know, flip this a little bit, because this second portal window, if there's a quarterback, I think Ryan's gonna go after it. This is a critical window for Julian Sayin. It's critical, you know, because again, Ryan is not waiting around for anybody. Like, I mean, if Julian can do it, we're gonna do it. But Ryan does not care about your feelings. He doesn't care about, you know, optics. He doesn't care about, well, he only goes after a portal quarterback, or he only plays whatever. It's like with Ryan, it's about, I need a guy that can win me a title this year. And if Julian Sain's the best guy for the job, then we're good. But if not, I mean, like I said, the way that he put a bullet in McCord's head to go out and get Will Howard, I thought was incredible. I mean, he knew what he had, and he knew that Kyle McCord is, you know, again, like I get all this draft hype, and every year there's these quarterbacks that get gaslit by these NFL analysts and these idiot GMs, and he's Nathan Peterman. He's the same guy from Pittsburgh. They took him in the mid rounds. He had moxie and all this other garbage, trash attributes. But he's Nathan Peterman. He'll hang around the league for 6-7 years and throw 50 interceptions and 4 touchdowns, and he'll get chance after chance to be a third string quarterback. But that's what he is, you know. And Ryan knew that, and Ryan, I mean, it would have been easy to keep him. I mean, the team liked him. Nice kid. Dad's an idiot, but I mean, it just is what it is. But he goes out and gets Will Howard, who the team loves, and who's, you know, as good of a leader as we've ever had in the history of the program. And we go to the Natty, and we win the Natty, because again, his skill set of being a big horse that could run. Um, he improved his accuracy because, again, with great coaching, you can improve your fundamentals and you can become more accurate. It's not like crazy to get more accurate, especially when you all of a sudden not only do you get great coaching, you get Jeremiah Smith and Emeka and this litany of talent that you've got to work with. Like, of course, you're going to become more accurate. And you have Ryan Day coaching his hind end off every day. Like, I mean, so Will Howard like turned into this super freak. So again, Ohio State ultra desirable. If I'm any quarterback in the country that wants to improve my draft stock, wants to become the next dude, like I'm looking at that skill group of Max Clare, JJ, Carnell, Emeka, and James Peoples. And I'm like, I mean, I'd take less than IL money to come to Ohio State because with that and also with Brian Hartline, he's going to throw the ball like crazy. And Ryan Day coaching me with Billy Fessler to a lesser degree. Like, I don't know. And again, I know that people say the only quarterback we'd ever take is some 7th-year Tristan Gibbia type guy or some Chug or some Gunnar Hook, but I don't know, man. I think if there's the right one in there, I think Ryan will go after it because I think that Ryan's had a taste of that victory, and he is not going to let a quarterback hold us back this year. Not with the amount of talent we had, and he knew that last year if he stayed with Kyle McCord, we had no chance of winning a national title. If he went out and got us a guy that could really do it, like Will Howard, then we could win a national championship, and we did. So again, he's ruthless, and I love it. Like, I mean, I love Ryan Day. Like, I love when I found out he was going to bullet Kyle McCord, and he was going to go get Will Howard, and that was early December, and he was meeting in Dallas with Will Howard, and everything was under wraps. But when I found that out, I was like, I love Ryan Day because he'll do whatever it takes to make that quarterback room A+, and he did, and he'll do that again this year. Nevada, any thoughts on that? We can start getting into some super chats. We got a bunch of them.
Well, one though, I mean, look at the quarterback class last year. I mean, last year you had Dylan Gabriel, you had Will Howard, and you had Cam Ward, all available.
Correct.
Yeah. And like this year, it's all well and good to say, hey, yeah, let's go get another Will Howard, or you're right, let's be ruthless and let's go get Cam Ward. But the bottom line is, I don't know if there's those guys out there. So for Ryan, he's gotta, I'm not saying there isn't anybody, but I'm not aware of anybody that's out there that could really make a difference or that's radically different than what we have now. Now players do get better when they come to Ohio State. I think that's an inescapable truth, and that's what I think people miss all the time when these transfers come in. They're looking at them kind of going, well, Will Howard threw interceptions at Kansas State. It's like, well, because he was throwing to 2-star wide receivers, guys. Still playing against Texas, still playing the same schedule, but throwing to 2-star wide receivers. And so maybe the guys aren't quite as open as Jeremiah Smith's going to be. So it makes a big difference when you surround yourself with talent, you get proper training, and you're drilled relentlessly by the best in the business in terms of doing it. Now, the Josh Simmons story, I mean, look, it's one thing to say, hey, we had Paris Johnson drafted, 6th of the draft or whatever he was taken overall in that thing. But Paris Johnson was a 5-star, can't miss. You knew he was going to be great. I knew everybody knew he was going to be great. And Ohio State just didn't screw that one up, and he was a great draft pick and centimillionaire in the NFL. Now Josh Simmons was a guy that ended up at San Diego State because nobody else wanted him, and when we got him, Ohio State fans didn't want him. I mean, go back and read the post about when we got Josh Simmons. It was a collective yawn about this guy who led the league or the nation in holding penalties or false. I don't even know what it was, but it was not good, and nobody was excited about it. And now you're talking about a guy that's a top 10 pick in the draft, coming off a catastrophic season-ending injury. He's still a top 10 pick in the draft. So I completely agree with you. I think it's one of the great development stories. What a great calling card for Ohio State development in general, and for offensive line development in particular. Come to Ohio State and create generational wealth for yourself. And look, if Josh Simmons stays at San Diego State, do you believe he's the 10th pick in the draft overall? I don't. I'm not sure where he gets drafted. I'm not sure if he gets drafted. But now he's going to be the top. He's going to be a first-round pick in the NFL draft. That's because of Ohio State. Great player, but he made the right move. He made the right move, put himself in a position to be successful, got himself, got trained, and then went out and balled out and did his thing. And now he's going to make $100 million plus in the NFL, and God bless him for doing it. But yeah, no, I think the second portal window is going to be fascinating. But I'm not so sure about the quarterback position, because you can't just throw away Lincoln and Julian for a guy that's just a hobnobber. Like he better be a dude. He better be Will Howard. And Will Howard, if somebody they put a thread on our board today, and they said rank the quarterbacks all time at Ohio State. And here's how I ranked them. I had Will Howard at number 1, and I had everyone else at number 2. That's how good Will Howard was this year for Ohio State. I'm just not sure that there's that guy out there right now.
Yeah, this is Josh. He posted this, and he looks really good. And this is today. So he's doing his rehab. And I mean, obviously tore his patellar, but I mean, he looks, if he's not 100%, it's probably 90, but I mean, his rehab looks like it's going good. He's moving. I mean, it looks like he'll be ready for camp. I'm sure they'll be real easy on him because he's, because he's a first rounder, but I mean, he's moving. I mean, he's kick sliding around, and rehab looks like it's going good. So yeah, I mean, here's my thing. Like, this is why I think the second portal window could be bigger than people expect. I think that there's going to be some collectives that are going to crap out. They're not going to deliver on their promises. And I think that there's going to be some jealousy and some envy about what some kids got on the current roster versus what other kids got. So again, like if I get X amount of dollars and they offer you X amount of dollars, and I think I'm better than you, then I might go look around. And I think that that's going to be a story across college football, especially at the big programs that are paying a lot of money. And that's just kind of what it is. Now, I think that the quarterback thing, Ryan's only going to pull the rip shoot if Julian just isn't up to snuff for whatever reason. So, I mean, and again, I expect him to totally be, fantastic. This is a 5-star kid that Nick Saban picked as his last quarterback before he took off, and Bill O'Brien loved him. Chip Kelly liked him, and Ryan Day got him and got Aaron Nolan out of here. So I fully expect him to do well. But the thing that I'm saying is that there's this different level of pressure for everybody on the roster now at Ohio State. And honestly, it's something that, I'm sure could be a total mind eraser for some of these kids. But, like in obviously in the old days, I always go back to the old days where it's like when I was playing, my plan was to sit behind Shane Olivier for your red shirt. And then as a red shirt freshman, I wanted to start, so I was going to sit behind the senior that had 50 career starts and ended up being a really good player in the NFL. I got like a $30 million extension with the Chargers. And then I want to start. Now, with the new way of work, like, you might be like, well, I'm going to work really hard this year and get bigger and stronger and compete. And then they could go out and spend $1 million and go get Ethan Onyanwa. Go get a superstar left tackle who's 6'8" and 350 pounds. And you're like, well, damn. So, I mean, you have to, my point is like, you have to show your potential and show and prove and show that you take it really seriously. Because if you don't, I mean, again, like Aaron Nolan is the most cautionary tale ever, because Aaron Nolan was a train wreck when he got here. And I had that from multiple sources. He was a total train wreck. And within weeks, Julian Zane hits the transfer portal and shows up to Columbus. And that first spring ball, when Ayers is thinking he's going to be, the developmental quarterback, Julian Zane's there. And Julian Zane, who's in his class, is running with the first team offense with Will Howard. So again, you don't have room to screw up. And honestly, I like it. Because again, it's a double-edged sword, because obviously, you don't have that comfort anymore. But there were guys I played with that I wish we could have got rid of. I wish we could have cleaned out the bottom of the roster. Some scholarship guys that frankly hated football and didn't take the game seriously. And I wish we could have got rid of them and got better players, because it probably would have helped us win a couple national titles. But that's just the benefit to coaching in modern times. Because if you have money and you can adapt, like, you really should never have a down year when you're at Ohio State, like, ever. Because we've got the money, we've got the prestige, we've got the development, we've got everything. So anytime you've got a giant, hole in the boat, you can just go patch it with, Ethan Oniano. I mean, like we just lost a top 10 pick at left tackle and we replaced him with a guy that potentially could be another first round tackle. That wasn't possible before. And again, that's why I swear to you, I I appreciate high school recruiting. I think it's great. I think that my projection for this year and the easiest prediction of all time is like Tyler Bowen is going to be looked at this. He's going to be a recruiting savant because we'll land Max Riley and Sam Greer, and this is a great class for Ohio offensive linemen. Just because it's just one of those years where we have this crop of really good tackles like throughout the state that have national offers, and we'll land two or three of them, and we'll land some good interior guys. I mean, you don't really need to leave Ohio to really have a great class. But like, I don't want to pay those guys a lot of money just because, they got to develop for a couple of years. Like they're not going to be able to step in and be, like I don't want to pay a guy who's developing, a David Sanders $2.5 million deal for him to be our third tackle and barely play. Cause that's a lot of money, and it upsets the room. It upsets the apple cart. Cause for me, like what we're doing now at Ohio State, I think is so smart because we're going after proven guys on the offensive line, guys that have played. They're big guys. They're explosive guys. They're guys that still have potential and upside with Ethan Onianwa and with Philip Daniels. And when they get into this organization, into this program with the diet, with Mickey beating these guys to death, getting them in better shape, with our coaching, with our offense, like it's gonna like put nitrous oxide in your fast car, like in Fast and Furious. Like that's what these guys are gonna turn into. So I'm excited. And again, that's why when people want to talk to me about offensive tackle recruiting, I don't care. And honestly, at this point, and I never cared before, because again, Nevada and I, we had classic battles where it was me and Nevada versus some of the dumbest human beings on the world on guys that have all been sent to the cornfield or to the shadow realm because they're so stupid about offensive tackle recruiting. And I'm like, guys, like you got to understand, like not every guy that we miss on is a true miss. And like when I look at recruiting, I look down the line, let's look 3 or 4 years. How much better would we have been if we would have gotten Kenyatta Goodwin or Samson Okunloa? Samson Okunloa got over $1 million from the Miami Hurricanes. He's been a complete bust. Hasn't cracked the 2 deep yet. He's in year 3. I mean, he should be starting. He should be a preseason All-American for that kind of money. So people were going crazy when we watched him. Jordan Seaton, we'll see how he does this year. Jordan Seaton's got to block for a true freshman. I didn't think he was good last year. I thought he was getting killed last year. He wasn't. Certainly wasn't as good as Josh Simmons or Donnie Jackson, not in my opinion. And again, I always say when people don't pick Ohio State, it generally is a stupid decision. Kenyatta Goodwin. These kids, they try to get cute, they try to get stupid, they try to chase fast money. They go to the Miami Hurricanes, they go to the Kentucky. Like Kenyatta Goodwin went to Kentucky, like out of football, gone. So I don't know. The kids a few years ago that went to Michigan State that like, oh my God, how are we ever going to survive without Nick Samack and JD Duplain? Nice kids, and they're Ohio kids, so I'm not going to bang on them too bad. But like to be from Ohio and to pick Michigan State over Ohio State, and again, if Greg Studwara talked to me one time, I would have committed. Like, I mean, I don't need a coach to call me 75 times a day and give me heart emojis and kissy faces and write me notes all the time. Like, I don't even want that. Just tell me I got an offer and I'm there. That's it. I don't need anything else. So, but how did it work out for all those guys that didn't pick Ohio State? Some did fine. 99% of them didn't, or they missed out on winning a national championship, or they missed out on the development that they would have gotten at Ohio State. So again, that's my sermon for today. So if we miss on an offensive tackle for the rest of my life, I don't care, because the correct answer is we'll find somebody. And they'll probably end up being damn good. Like Josh Simmons ended up being a top 10 pick, and he's the best tackle in this class. And so do I care that we miss on David Sanders? Is David Sanders going to be as good as Ethan Onianwa this year? Not a chance in the entire universe. And we got Ethan and Philip for combined half as much as we would have had to pay David Sanders. He will be, he might start at Tennessee this year, but he'll get the brakes blown off him being a true freshman starting in the SEC. Watch. And I'll take any wagers. You guys say he's going to be some first team All-American. Let me know where you want me to send the money, because that ain't going to happen. Nevada, any thoughts? We'll dig into these super chats.
Hey, no, Granny Nevada would say it's not the guys that you miss on that kill you. It's the guys that you get that can't play that kill you. So, yeah, I never worry about kids that we that we miss on. I never. I because 99% of the time, like you said, they go on to obscurity. We never hear from them again. Every now and then, somebody will pop up. And you're like, oh, he's a good player. Would have been nice to have. But you look at the current roster as it's configured, and you're like, where would he have helped? And coming off a national championship, clearly it's hard to imagine anybody being an upgrade at just about any position. So I think we're going to be just fine.
Well, yeah, I go all the way back to like Chantrell Henderson. I mean, like when we lost Chantrell, oh my God, fold the program. And like Chantrell never did anything anywhere. Transferred twice, sucked in the NFL, never got a second contract. So I don't know. There's just all these cautionary tales. Are there guys that we miss on that are good players? Sure, but are they as good as Josh Simmons and Seth McLaughlin were? No. I mean, we just had two portal guys. Well, I mean, Josh Simmons should have been a first team All American. Would have been if he could have stayed healthy, and obviously it's not his fault. And Seth won the Remington. So again, at the most developmental position in all of sports, outside of maybe hockey goaltender, I'd much rather have a guy that started games and I can look at his film and, okay, let's give that guy the money because he's proven that he can play in college. Because there's a lot of these big time tackles, and why it's so hard to evaluate these guys is 99% of their high school film is good, but they're not playing against anybody that's as good as they're going to see in the Big Ten. You watch these kids in Ohio, and they might, when they're, even if this is Division I level, like they're not always going to be blocking a defensive end who's a big time college guy. So, they get up here and they got to go against JT and Jack every day. Like, I mean, they could be in the insane asylum, and I've seen that. Like, I mean, Ohio State. The thing that nobody ever talks about is Ohio State breaks people that are weak mentally. Guys that are good players, guys that are 5-star guys, phenoms, guys that are number one in the country, and the guys everybody cheers about. They show up here and this is the savior, and he's going to start as a freshman, and they show up here, man, and they get broken and ground into dust because it's no joke, man. It is real in the field when you go to Ohio State because everybody there is trying to take your job in that room. Everybody, and I love it because again, nothing will make you stay sharper than when you go to Ohio State. Because I mean, if you want to have a bad day or you don't want to get enough sleep or not eat right or whatever, and you show up to practice, you can get dog walked, and it ain't fun. So you learn that real quick when you're there, and like I said, that's the best part. Like I crave that. I love that. Really the biggest reason I want to go to Ohio State, because I mean, otherwise I'd have gone to Stanford and gotten a crazy education and did that whole thing. But I wanted to play against great players. I wanted it to be crazy every day and I wanted it to be turned up. And, when you're playing against the guys I had to go against, like it was great. Like guys like Mike Kudla and Will Smith. I mean, Cam Hayward and Vern Golson, like those guys, 2 first rounders, all those guys are all Big Ten. I mean, at minimum, 3 of them are all Americans. So that's what you expect. And again, like that's as much as the band is great and the cheerleaders are great, and Script Ohio and the Carmen Ohio, like all that stuff's great. But like the competition you get in practice where you really have to bring it every day, that is by far the best part about Ohio State. And I love that so much because again, like you see guys melt. You see guys that when it gets a little tough, man, this ain't, this isn't, small town, Ohio football anymore. This is a different level. So I love that so much. And again, that's why, getting these proven guys from the portal that can prove they've proven they've played against Penn State. And again, you look at, some of these games, you look at, Phillip Daniels, who's going to be our starting right tackle this year. There's a game he started against Penn State where he's blocking Abdul Carter. So you get to, like when you're Mark Pantoni and you're Justin Frye, those guys, you get to scout him against the number 1 pick in the draft. And you don't get to do that in high school. You don't get to do that for an offensive tackle. So you watch him handle a guy like that and you're like, yeah, let's go get that guy. Let's go pay that guy. He proved that he can block Penn State sends in a really nice fashion. So let's go make him our right tackle next year. And he's an Ohio kid. So good for him. Nick Ball, thanks for the 10. Appreciate you, brother. I think Michigan is trying to stop everyone from finding out that they in fact cheated. Wouldn't that be a reason to avoid the committee on infractions? Nevada, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that the deeper this gets, the closer they get towards full disclosure, and that's why they've they've done such an amazing job of keeping the notice of allegations under wraps. They've leaked it selectively to their hand-picked journalists, but they don't want people reading that, because as this thing gets out, man, it's going to get national media attention. There's going to be articles written about it, and this will not be a nothing with the national media. This will not be a collective ho hum, nobody cares, because when the full thing comes out about how extensive this was, and everybody gets educated to the stuff that you guys already know about, but I'm telling you, 99% of the people in the national media, they're not paying attention to it. It's just not on their radar. But once it comes on the radar, this is going to be something, and it's going to be bad, and I'm going to enjoy every minute of it.
Yep, I totally agree. It's going to be fun to watch them burn. Lisa Share, what is up, my friend? I hope you're doing great tonight. Thank you for the 5. What are the Vegas odds that Bryce leaves scum once the hammer comes out next for the great show? Go Bucks. I don't know. He's getting 10 million, so I mean, it'd have to be a pretty big hammer, but I think it depends on what the hammer is. Is it something in the past or something in the future? He'll have options. I mean, he's a really good player. I'd say 50-50. What do you think, Nevada?
Yeah, just the thing that we don't know, and the thing that's unknowable right now, is kind of like you said, the details of his NIL deal. How are there clawbacks? So do you have to pay back money? Is it back end loaded? What are the details on that? Because you're talking about, yeah, I've heard it's 10, 11, 12 million, whatever the number is. It's a gigantic NIL deal subsidized by Larry Ellison. So, you know, does he care as much? I don't know. I mean, I'm not quite sure he's going to be able to get that anywhere else, because I'm not sure how good he is. Now, that may be a hot take, and maybe he's Terrell Pryor, circa 2025, and I reserve the right to come back and eat my words on that. But I'm just not sure who he is. So he may be at his high water mark right now in terms of his value, and his best bet may be staying at Michigan. So yeah, I'd say it's probably 1-to-1. It's probably 50-50 odds that he ends up at Michigan when this is all said and done.
I agree. Robbie Benson, 1-on-1. This is the best name on the show, I think, now. Thanks for the 10. Appreciate you, my dude. Imagine your kid is a student and a helper on the Scum football team, and you find out that a sociopath wants them to drive to Athens, Georgia to videotape Georgia's sideline. Great show, Nevada OH.
Well,
that's what I was talking about. I'm like, they want these kids to drive to Athens. I mean, it's 20 hours to get there, and then you got to drive back, and you still got to make it back in time for the team meeting on Sunday or whatever. It's like, it's not possible, and then you got to stand there and, a lot of you guys have been to football games, high school, college, wherever. You've never seen somebody sit there and film the entire game with the camera like that. I mean, you've never seen it. So someone's going to take a photo of it. Someone's going to take, what is this kid doing? This is weird. And they're going to get out it. And it's just such a stupid, random thing to do, but they were doing it. And again, I don't know. I mean, you'd have to pay me a lot of money to stand there for 4 hours, have my arms straight out in the air, getting a signal guy over and over again. But that's just my opinion. Nevada, your thoughts on imagining your kid as a student and a helper on the Scum football team. You find out a sociopath wants to drive to Athens from Ann Arbor to videotape Georgia's sideline. What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, and what you got to remember is a lot of this stuff was out on Reddit. There was stuff where people were talking about the weird stuff going on, where people were being hired as stringers and doing this stuff. They had pictures of them there holding cameras. I mean, and it was so crazy that nobody really knew what to make of it. And then when this came out, all the pieces kind of fell in. But yeah, it just kind of goes to show you the culture. The fact that Connor Stalions felt comfortable asking people to drive 20 hours to do that just goes to show you how lost and how completely morally vacant that entire program is. Because if you've got a good culture, you wouldn't even ask that, because you're like, no, that's crazy. I'm gonna get fired for doing this, and nobody would. If somebody says that, they're gonna report me, and this thing's just gonna. No, but he had the endorsement of the highest levels of Michigan football, the full support. He was the golden child. He was the magic intern that was sitting on the shoulder of the defensive coordinator game, shouting out plays. And all the other little Geppettos thought he was like the big deal. So no, I think it's a mess. I think it just shows you how lost Michigan is, and I think that's why the punishment has to be extra hard to kind of punish anything like this ever happening in the future.
Well, I mean, it's like we've pointed out a bunch of times, like Jim Harbaugh gave him a game ball as an intern or like a recruiting, a mid-level recruiting assistant. Like, I mean, like I said, I was a grad assistant and I worked as many hours as anybody in the building. I mean, I was there on Saturday, Sunday. I mean, I was always there. And I mean, if I would have gotten a game ball from Urban Meyer, I would have like laughed because for one, I'm not a player. For two, I'm not a play caller. So if you're not the play caller or the player, like I don't, maybe if your position group does something crazy, you could give it to like the position coach, but you don't give a game ball to an intern. That's ridiculous. Unless he's doing something that is seismic, like picking off plays, like Connor was. So again, Jim Harbaugh, who is delusional and is, a compulsive liar, and frankly, and highlight this and underline it for all of you that are following at home, was incredibly desperate to raise his stock and raise his star to get back to being an NFL head coach. So when this idiot shows up and he says, Coach, I was in the Naval Academy and advanced, warfare and counterintelligence and everything else, and I can pick signs and, and he starts doing it. Like I said, and I've said this 100 times on the show, like the whole thing about it is once you tell the coach you can do it and you show that you can do it and you have success doing it, you can become obsessively compulsed with figuring out how you can do it better and better and better and have a smaller margin for error and be more dialed in, more locked in. How can you practice? How can you avoid, if the signs are different, if the signs are whatever? Because again, the one like flaming example of when the signs were clearly different was when they played TCU and they got ran out of the building. They lost by 1,000 points and they looked like they'd never played football before because all of a sudden it was like the giant pumpkin, wagon, the horse-drawn pumpkin carriage. All of a sudden it turned into the pumpkin, like clock struck midnight. Is when Cotter figured out he didn't have the signals anymore. So he'd been had because TCU had been tipped off. They changed everything. So magically Michigan was completely inefficient. They got ran through. So Connor became obsessed with how can I make sure that I have every back door sealed and everything is as perfect as can be. So that's how he worked. And again, so you send stringers, you go to every Ohio State game, every Michigan State game. You go send someone to go get the Georgia signals in case you see him in the playoffs. Like, because again, the thing that he couldn't do since he's talentless, it's not he's not smart. He's just a talentless guy because all I did was cheat. Is that you couldn't get caught in that TCU scenario again where you didn't have the signals, and then all of a sudden you're back to you got to rely on these guys to actually call a defense to call an offense. Honestly, and that just isn't going to work out very well. General Chrome, thanks for the 5. Appreciate you, my friend. Love the Hulk AVI. I love Marvel. Venom's my favorite by far. If Michigan vacates all wins from 21, 22, and 23, they lose 40 wins, and it puts them behind OSU in the all-time wins, and at less than 1,000 again. Take the wins. Nevada, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as big on the whole all-time win, the 1,000 thing. The natty matters to me. I know, but I know that other stuff matters to a lot of people. So I'm not diminishing. I'm just saying from my own personal standpoint, it's it's the natty above all else. Then go forward with anything because everything else beside that, we're not going to get forfeits. We're not going to get the wins back for. They're not going to forfeit the games to Ohio State. At least that's not every bit of information I've got from my guy at the NCAA is they've been talking about vacating. Could that change? Sure. I mean, anything can certainly change. But I'm not as it would be funny. It'd be a funny story about how they were posed with a little picture of 1,000 wins and everything like that. And now, nope, don't have 1,000. You got it going back. It's like Chutes and Ladders where you go all the way back down again and start over. But yeah, I that would be a funny story if that did happen.
I'm looking up their all-time Michigan all-time football records. I mean, I don't care about what happened in the early 1900s when it was they're playing Oberlin and they're playing some of these teams. Like I want to see who they played in like the first few years of the century. I mean they're when they're they're playing in 1882 and they're playing in 1879 and they go 1-0 and they beat a team 1-0. So on the season they went 1-0-1 and points 1, opponent points 0. Then they get into the 1890s and they're 2-0, 3-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-1. Like I don't know. Like I mean, you get to fielding Yost in the early 1901 and they're 11-0, 11-0, 11-0, 10-0, 12-1. Like great, like awesome, like 1900. Like I mean, to me, and again, this I don't care what people think of this, but anything before integration doesn't really count to me. Like 1901, like a bunch of little small, slow white guys running around against each other, and sure, Michigan's dominating. They 1902 they won. They scored 644 points and they gave up 12. So I mean, like come on, like that really counts. Again, like I said, anything pre-integration, like you look at these scores that they score 600 points, they give up 0. Like who are they playing against? So like I don't know. I mean, the all-time thing I think is just stupid because you get into the modern era and then all of a sudden it's way closer. But they had that padding of those first 50 years where they're playing Oberlin College and Michigan Tech and whatever. And I don't know. Stupid doesn't matter to me. Tim Z, thanks for the 5. If Ohio State had to vacate wins and the bowl game for tattoos, punishment has to be a lot worse. Of course. I mean, it should be a nuclear bomb dropped on their entire campus at this point. Just cleanse everything, start from scratch. There's Sodom and Gomorrah at this point. If it starts raining, better go build a boat. I mean, it should rain on that whole athletic department at this point with the basketball program and Juwan Howard and the hockey team and the stuff that's circulating around them. Like, yeah, Nevada, your thoughts? If Ohio State had to vacate wins for bowl game for tattoos, the punishment has to be a lot worse. Thank you again, Tim Z. Appreciate that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you think about it. The reason for Ohio State was because they played ineligible players. So players were ineligible. So you played a player who supposedly assisted you in winning the game that you might not have won had that player not played. And I've used this example before, but if you play a player one play and he plays on the kickoff team and you're ahead 65-0 and you use an ineligible player, you forfeit that game. Even though how much did he really contribute to the game? He covered a kickoff when you're up 9 touchdowns, doesn't matter in the eyes of you forfeit the game. Well, then what should the punishment be for a guy that illegally surveilled, um, used advanced scouting, and did something that went right to the integrity, to the heart of the matter of winning and losing on both offense and defense throughout the entire game? I mean, yeah, I'm not quite sure there's a severe enough penalty to do it, and so yeah, I mean, Ohio State was punished appropriately according to the rules, but I think the only thing, the reason why I don't think people are really grasping how bad this is because this just literally has no precedent. There's never been anything quite like this, short of bribing the officials, like literally paying off the officials. There's never been anything quite like this before, but I think the punishment's going to be unprecedented as well. So I'm ready for it.
Josh Dillon, thanks for the 5s. Been also remember, I hope you're good, brother. What I don't get is why Michigan won't get the death penalty. If there's a case for it, it's this BS. Nevada, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree. Now they're not going to get the death penalty. I don't want anybody to go. No, Nevada said they're going to get the death penalty. No, I'm not saying they're going to get that, but just because I don't think the NCAA wants to do it. I don't think the NCAA has the stomach to give somebody the death penalty. But if there ever was a case that called for it, there were a repeat offender. They've got multiple violations going on in the men's basketball program and the men's hockey program. I mean, bad stuff. And they're a repeat offender with 50 instances of advanced scouting on top of recruiting violations, on top of, I mean, everything else that they did as part of Cheeseburger Gate. And the big thing with Tressel was that he supposedly, covered up evidence or did whatever when he didn't respond to the emails, from that, debarred lawyer or whatever the thing was. Well, that's what Sharon Moore did. Sharon Moore, the current head coach at Michigan, destroyed text messages in an effort to not give them to the NCAA. Now they were able to recapture them and recreate them, but that's what happened. So yeah, if there ever was a case that called for the death penalty, it'd be this. Not going to happen, but it should.
I mean, that's where I'm at. Like, I don't know what could possibly get the death penalty now with NIL, and there's no more inducements like the SMU case. So, I mean, cheating is right at the heart of, you're messing with people's livelihoods, you're messing with people's careers. I think they should get the death penalty, but I don't think that they will. I know they won't. But it's with how deep it was and with how much evidence there is, I just don't know how you don't drop the hammer in a really fierce way. Proof Buck, thanks for the 20. Appreciate you, my friend. Big Ten and SEC absorb the Big 12 and ACC first games versus slower conference, NFL like playoffs. Number one, Big Ten and SEC final. Other bowls, same ranked Big Ten and SEC schools. Bottom teams bowls versus top lower conference to be in the Big Ten / SEC. Michigan, no playoffs till 2037. Biblical 4X repay. That'd be amazing. That is a lot of context right there. But yeah, I don't think that the Big Ten and SEC are going to absorb the entire Big 12 and ACC, but I think they'll take the Clemsons and the Dukes and, Miami and Florida State and like the desirable candidates that you could absorb. West Virginia, I think, would be a good fit in the Big Ten. Yeah, again, we got to deal with the academic stuff that comes with the Big Ten, so that probably doesn't fit real good. But I don't know. Like, I think regionally, there's a lot that make a lot of sense to join the Big Ten. I think Notre Dame should join the Big Ten. What are your thoughts, Nevada? I don't think the Big Ten SEC, they don't deserve the entire conference, but they'll pick the top ones out of it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, North Carolina, Virginia, Florida State, Miami, Notre Dame. I mean, they're all going to end up in the Big Ten or the SEC. It's the way it's going. You see it. It's a slow motion. I won't say train wreck, but it's a slow motion coming together, and it's not a question of if, just a question of when. The Big Ten and the SEC realize they have golden years. There's more money, and we're going to continue to make more money. The name is it's just a question of doing. Mr. Barton, I cannot hear you. I don't know if any others can hear you.
Oh, I that is really funny because I just was answering an entire question for the last 30 seconds when I kicked you out because you turned into Mr. Roboto, and I was like, oh my
Oh
god, I
my
gotta get him
God,
out
I
of
hate
here.
that. I hate that. I
It,
had a
yeah, it
good answer
was
going to.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I topped that off by not talking. So we had technical greatness for about a minute
No,
straight.
Nori me rigato, Mr. Roboto.
Yeah, you're a robot, and I just wasn't even talking. I said my lips moving, so it was great. So just excellent technical prowess. But
Oh my
do you
gosh.
have any
Yeah.
other thoughts on the SEC and the Big Ten and
No,
ACC merger question?
it's gonna happen. Absolutely gonna happen. Like you said, not all the schools, but the top schools are gonna end up in the Big Ten and the SEC. 100%.
Okay. Pages Lucero, and I answered this on mute, so you can actually answer since you were gone. Thanks for this. He says, what players replace the starters we lost on defense? I'll just start because I already said it, but nobody heard me except for me. The front four is easy because it's going to be Caden McDonald and Edric Houston inside. It's going to be Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry, who are seniors at defensive end. Sonny Styles will play Will. Arvell Reese will play Mike. So those are two linebackers. If we go nickel, I really like Lorenzo Styles Jr. to play nickel. But you've got Aaron Scott, you got Bryce West, you got a lot of competition. Then you got Jermaine Matthews, you've got Davison as your starting corners. Caleb Downs is going to be your deep safety, and then you got to figure out who's the other safety. Nevada, is there anything you disagree with there? And then obviously we've got the freshmen that are going to be, Devin Sanchez and some of these guys. Where do they fit in the picture? And any other guys that can step up and give us some pass rushing juice or some coverage. But what are your thoughts on who replaces who on defense?
No, you were that was pretty extensive. That was a good answer for a mute guy. No, I'd say I'd throw C.J. Hicks in there too. I think they're going to find something to do with C.J. Hicks, and I think it's going to be involved stand up defensive end, rushing the quarterback, odd man front type of stuff. But they're going to figure out a way to get him after the quarterback because he's good at it, and I think Patricia wants to engage him that way.
I think that's if I'm Ryan Day, like my task for Matt Patricia is to figure out how to get something out of CJ Hicks. He's got 2 years left. He's a redshirt junior this year. Redshirted his first year. I had to look that up because I wasn't sure if he was a senior this year, but he's a redshirt junior. But you got to get him to do something. I mean, for as talented as he was coming out, and the lack of production, and really the lack of trust, like we couldn't even put him on the field last year. So I think you got to put him at the edge, and you got to figure out a way to use him. And he's got talent, but I mean, can he harness it and own it and become good at something? Because again, he's got, when you're a 5-star with his ability, like you should be productive. And if there's one area on the defense that scares me to death right now, it's our pass rush. Um, we'll see if Caden and Kenyatta can get it done. Caden's obviously done some good stuff, and Kenyatta came on down the stretch, but like it's a lot different to pass rush when you play 20 plays a game versus when you play 45 or 50 and you're getting ran over and you're tired. And like, that's the thing people don't realize is when you become a starter, you play starter minutes. It's a lot harder to be productive. Ian Bates, thanks for the deuce. Ryan Day doesn't mix up the unis like Urban Plain Jane. Nevada, what are your thoughts on that? 'Cause, I mean, we wore the Reds at home, didn't we, versus Tennessee? I mean, I feel like we've done it a little bit. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Urban loved those. He loved those special jerseys and that stuff. I love that stuff. The reason I love it is because I know the players love it, and so that's why people can laugh all they want about Oregon and their funky helmets and the shoes and all stuff. But let me tell you what, the players love that stuff, and it gets them jacked up. And didn't help them in the Rose Bowl against us, but they love that stuff. So I wish we do it a little bit more, but. Hey, that's football in 2025.
Well, I think that some of the like the black jerseys are the best jerseys we have, in my opinion. I think that those are just stunning. And like I'm not jealous of anything, but I'd love to get one of the black jerseys because I think that's the best jersey ever. But it doesn't mean as much because I didn't actually get to wear it. But like one of the game issued black jerseys, those things are, I think that's the best jersey we have. I love it. So, but no, I think that sometimes I don't know if Ryan's in control of that. I think that, and you got to remember, Urban had a way different relationship with Phil Knight. Like, I mean, Urban and Phil Knight were real tight. And so when his development team had some crazy stuff for us to wear and Urban wanted to see a better looking gear, like Nike delivered. Again, Urban did so much for this program. And not many people know about it because they weren't in there when they didn't see the change like I did. I was there from the old regime to the new regime, and all of a sudden we got way better looking gear, way better looking everything, first class everything. And that wasn't the Ohio State standard for a long time. And again, we got nice stuff. I'm not crying about anything. It's just, we didn't have like there were teams like Illinois that would get better gear, better looking gear, more gear, because they demanded it. Illinois, Florida. Then I'd look at the stuff we'd get and our stuff kind of sucked. There were years we get the same stuff year after year, the same sweatshirts and workout shorts. And I'm like, what? We don't have any creativity at all. We can't get different colors and different patterns and colorways. And I mean, I see our basketball team. I mean, the one thing that used to always tick me off is like, we never would wear black, like a black sweatshirt with red ink, like a red Nike swoosh. And I'd see the basketball team would have it, cheerleading team would have it, every sport would have it except us. Ours was always gray and red. And like, I don't wear red hoodies or red sweatshirts. I wear black. And so now, of course, they have all kinds of sweet looking black gear. And it's all because of Urban. Because Urban's like, I want our stuff to look sharp. And so now our stuff looks really good. So thank you, Urban. Sandy Bob's Patio, Burgers, and Beer. Thanks for the 5. Hope you're good, my friend. Michigan was irrelevant before the sign stealing. They were irrelevant last year. They will be irrelevant for the foreseeable future. I love it. I agree. I mean, we're tuned up, and we crushed the portal again. And this team's about to be really good again this year. We're preseason #1 per ESPN. So, yeah, I think that Michigan is up the creek. Nevada, what are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, and that's kind of why, when this thing about the go forward ban, I mean, think about it. Michigan was on a college football playoff ban this year. It was not self imposed. It was just because they suck. And I don't think and they're not going to be better next year. I'm telling you, they're not going to be better than they were this year. They lost 5 games this year, and they're all jumping up and down and all around. Oh, what a great year! We only lost 5 games. They lost all their good players, and like I said, I don't see a path for them going forward. I think when this thing hits, on top of mediocre recruiting, on top of Sharon Moore being your head coach, I just think it's going to be. I think they're going to be in the wasteland. I think they're going to be in the proverbial cornfield of college football for a long time, and I love it.
And they deserve it. All right, Nevada, let's wrap this thing up. Any final thoughts?
No, just a big day today. Big day today. Michigan changing up their legal strategy, trying to find one that works, and maybe throwing the Hail Mary towards the negotiated resolution. Even though I just think they missed the window. I think they waited too long. I think the ship has sailed, and sucks for them.
It does suck for them, and I love it for us. So that being said, appreciate you guys kicking it with us again. Another great show, another great almost hour and a half of content. So appreciate you guys. If you guys enjoy our content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, I appreciate you guys being on here each and every night. Another huge show because you guys made it one. So thank you for that. If you want to help us out in a huge way, please subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts. We have been pumping a lot of content on there. It's been really good. A lot of incredible feedback. Please leave us a 5-star review. Help us out a little bit. It's right on your phone. It's super easy to do. And we just appreciate you guys so much for doing that. So with that being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Go Bucks.